James Harden was part of an exciting young core of OKC in 2012. However, in 2013, he was traded to the Rockets due to salary issues. But what if it was Kevin Durant instead? Would he still have as much success as he has in our reality? Could he do what Harden couldn't in Houston? We're going to be finding out as KD is not only shipped to Houston, but also will follow the same exact trajectory as former teammate Harden has for the past decade, starting off in 2013. Durant was joining Houston and picking up exactly where he left off in the finals with OKC. He was without a doubt one of the most promising young talents the NBA had to offer, but he was joining a Rockets team with no real identity. The second leading scorer was an inefficient Jeremy Lin at point guard, and the front court was highlighted by Omer Asik. There is no way this is who they have starting at center. This Rockets team was struggling in nearly every way imaginable, and the critics were noticing. The one thing Houston did have going for them, though, is Durant was not opposed to forming super teams and was quickly recruiting some additional help. Dwight Howard was arriving to town in 2014 and was a desperately needed upgrade at the center position. Not only did he provide a low post option, but more importantly, he would change the team's reputation on the defensive end. Dwight was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year and had formed one of the most respected duo with the NBA's leading scorer. KD was putting up career high numbers and solidified himself as the best scorer in the entire league by a wide margin. His personal performance catapulted his team into a top 3 offense, and the Rockets were enjoying an incredibly fast turnaround. In just one season's time, they went from being a bottom-dwelling team to legit contenders who boasted one of the most feared two-way punches in the league. The team's success couldn't go unnoticed, and its leader was being rewarded for his contributions headed into the NBA playoffs. And in the first round of the playoffs, it was looking like Durant's MVP was highly deserved, as he was leading his team to sweeping the talented Clippers in the first round. But now his real test was here in round 2. The Warriors, of course, feature one of the best shooting backcourts of all time, and while they were still young at this point, they'd still be a threatening force. But on the other hand, Kevin Durant was just as much of a threat to them. During his postseason run, he was just as efficient as he was in the regular season, and even with Iguodala as his defensive matchup, he would still find scoring opportunities to give his team the edge. While the rest of his team were underperforming, Durant was taking matters into his own hands and carrying his team to the promised land, as he'd have Houston up early in the series 2-0. And as this series headed back to Houston, enough fans were excited to close this out, but unfortunately, Steph Curry had some very different plans for this playoff series. He was coming out of his shell as a player and would be breaking out into full superstar status. Nobody in Houston was even able to hold a candle to Steph, and not only did he silence the fans of Houston, but going back into Golden State, he'd give his own hometown fans something to cheer about, as this series had been turned around incredibly quick. Luckily for KD and the Rockets, though, Game 6 was back at home, and while they haven't had much success in Houston versus the Warriors yet, they were optimistic in this Game 6, as Durant was determined to carry his team to that next level. He got off to a hot start, but unfortunately the Warriors just kept sticking around, and they closed out this game in dominating fashion like they had the whole entire series. The series is currently 3-2 with 8 seconds left. I would go to Iguodala, you know, the state of the earth on the line. I'd go to Andre, but it's looking like it's Steph one-on-one here. Steph Curry to pull up 3. Bang! Steph Curry is advancing past Kevin Durant. But KD would be leaving this series already wanting to come back stronger the next year. Durant in 2015 was a different breed of NBA player. His scoring took yet another leap, and he and his team were the hottest story during the regular season. They were electrifying with athletic dunks, exciting defensive stops to create fast breaks, and huge moments from Durant, all to produce the top record in the league for this year. But the euphoria of the regular season was coming to a screeching halt here in the playoffs. They ran into the Lakers in round 1 after somehow Kobe led that trash roster to the playoffs. I say somehow, but I mean, it's Kobe Bryant. Come on. And Kobe was doing what Kobe does. He was at the end of his career and was making one final impactful run in the playoffs. Unfortunately for Durant, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, as the Black Mamba was upsetting him in round 1. And with these recent struggles for the team, there started to be animosity between Dwight and Durant, but as we all know, it's more about how you bounce back, and the Rockets would be trying to do just that. Durant was continuing his scoring excellence. It was making attempts to find Dwight in order to mend their relationship, and it'd be put to the test come playoff time in round 2 for a rematch with Golden State. Just 2 seasons ago, Durant was terrorized by the incredible duo of Klay and Steph Curry lighting up the three-point line. But this time around, Durant was more prepared, and he and the Rockets had built more chemistry and resilience after all the trials and tribulations they had gone through. This time around, things were working out for KD as he was overcoming Golden State in 6, although this certainly will not be the last time Durant is meeting the Warriors Spurs. But for now, KD is in his first conference finals as a Rocket versus the Spurs. Durant would have the elite defender Kawhi Leonard on him, but it seriously wouldn't matter, as Kevin was clearly convinced that he was destined to make the NBA Finals, as these Western Conference Finals were outrageously anticlimactic with a complete sweep of San Antonio before facing another rival. LeBron was the one who knocked him out in the finals in 2012 at OKC, but this time the circumstances were different. Durant was the best player in ball and was coming off 6 straight wins. He had all the momentum on his side and was continuing in the series versus LeBron. After a fast 3 games, Durant was 1 win away from a championship and was establishing himself as the best player in the world. But clearly LeBron didn't consider himself out of this series just yet, because he was taking things game by game and slowly fighting back into the series. One by one, match after match, James was winning and keeping himself in position for a Game 7 finale. After allowing his team to slip in the past 3 games, KD was making an effort to make it all right in Game 7. He continued to be aggressive in the face of LeBron's defense and had a huge 51-point performance, which would eclipse his final averages so far. But that 51 points just wasn't going to be enough to overcome LeBron, who at this point I'm convinced is all but destined to win the finals in 2016 against all odds. Yo, you cannot be serious. Durant, how do you let this happen, bro? After that disappointing finals, Dwight got out of there as fast as he could, and there seemed to be a lot of tweets that I'm sure were not Kevin Durant burner accounts. Now, Kevin didn't have any help in Houston, but with the ability to have all the shots to himself, he was still able to get his team the top record. But the lack of help clearly showed in the playoffs, as he lose to Harden, who is living out Durant's legacy as part of the Warriors. Durant was in desperate need of another offensive tool, and the following season, management will be bringing him the help. And boy, was it a lot of help, as Chris Paul has joined Houston that offseason, and he was now running the offense with his elite playmaking, and I'm not sure there could have been a better pairing alongside Kevin Durant. KD's life was just so much easier now, and things were completely opened up for him on offense, which led to yet another incredible season to add to his resume. We got another Durant MVP after that of Chris Paul, 50-90-40 club, 38-5. Yo, he's definitely open. This is probably his best chance to get a ring so far. In an attempt to earn that ring, he'd be starting off in round 1 seeking revenge on the team who originally traded him, and he would be getting that revenge with a win and led that into round 2 with another win versus Dame and the Blazers, until they would meet the hurdle we were all expecting in the conference finals. The matchup this year was different now that the Rockets had CP3 join the team and help spread out this offense. He was still getting cooked by Curry, but his defense was able to help slow him down a bit, and his playmaking abilities continued to help Durant on the offensive end by setting him up for easy shots. Accompanied by Durant's incredible scoring performance, I thought that this series was all but over once KD got a convincing 3-1 lead, but all of a sudden it looked like history was repeating itself. James Harden and Curry were outscoring Houston in the elimination games following and got the series tied up to close it out in Golden State. Durant was fueled by desperation of not allowing the same mistake to happen twice. He knew how it would affect his legacy if he blew a second major lead, and his play tonight was showing that he meant business, as he showcased a scoring onslaught like never seen before. But the only problem was that the combined scoring of Harden, Curry, and Clay was enough to keep this one close, and we would have another intense finish with this matchup. Houston's up by 2 right now in Game 7. The Warriors have the ball, though, and a lot of firepower from 3. Steph Curry off this inbound, Chris Paul on him, CP3, they're swinging around James Harden. He pump fakes there, no good on that shot. He's driving it in. Eric Gordon blocks it. Gordon blocks Harden, they foul. Gordon did end up sinking both free throws, but this one is far from over. 27 seconds left. With as good a shooters as Golden State has, they have plenty of time. 2 threes gives them all time. They're throwing down low to Draymond. Are you kidding me? Steph Curry in the clutch, driving in, step back, his floater, it's off. Looney, Harden for 3. Bow! He gets it in 1-point lead. They're going to have to foul now. They're going to have a chance to tie this up if the Rockets hit both free throws. Gordon hit both free throws again. He's looking clutch out here, but the Warriors are only down by 3. Like I said, they have plenty of time when you can shoot as well as they can. I can't believe they gave up the offensive rebound. Curry with it. Looney with the screen. Curry to pull-up jumper. Good! He ties this game up. Unbelievable! Houston still has time for the last shot, but I cannot believe the Warriors got back in this. I thought the 2K AI was going to sell, but apparently not. Kevin Durant here. Klay Thompson on him. Is it going to be KD with his last shot? It has to be. It has to be the Durantula. Klay Thompson, 5 seconds remaining. Clint Capella with the screen. Same play Curry had. Durant, the fadeaway 3. Oh! Durant gets it in at the buzzer. Kevin Durant delivers in the clutch for the Rockets. A trip to the NBA Finals. KD is looking clutch. In all honesty, the match versus the Warriors was more of the NBA Finals than the actual NBA Finals, as the real challenge was behind him now, and Durant and the Rockets were breezing straight by DeRozan-led Raptors team in the actual finals, en route to Durant's first career ring, and officially accomplished what Harden couldn't do for the Rockets. Immediately after the win, the Rockets were adjusting their focus and now repeating. In the next season, they'd run through the regular season as a formality before getting back to the main show, which was, of course, the playoffs. But the first round was looking like a disaster after Butler led the Wolves to a 2-0 start, but Durant was able to quickly get things turned around, and from there, they swept the next 4 games and advanced to yet another matchup with the Warriors. Similarly to how it's been every time, this would be yet another back and forth competition between the two teams. Durant would sink a tough shot, and Curry would abuse a moving screen to get open for 3. This would go on for 6 games, but this time around, Golden State would be squeaking by with a win, and it may have ended Durant's hopes of a Houston dynasty, because the following year there would be a swap of guards between OKC and Houston. The former teammates were reunited finally in Houston, and it was definitely a different dynamic than Chris Paul. Westbrook was more athletic than Chris Paul, but lacked the shooting, playmaking, and defense of CP3. So basically everything but dunking the ball. Yeah, it was a downgrade from CP3 without a doubt, which was obvious when looking at their record, and their lives were on the line in the play-in. I knew Russ wasn't gonna be a great fit, but I wasn't expecting him to be this bad. And then I see that Russ got hurt, which makes sense, man. KD's all alone. In order to make the playoffs, KD would have to win 2 straight games, and the first would be against the Sacramento Kings, which even without a co-star helping him, he was able to outclass the Kings easily, as they would have to wait to light their beam. And believe it or not, the second match they had to overcome was versus the Warriors. While Harden had left Golden State for Brooklyn, they of course still had Steph Curry, and it wouldn't be easy. KD would put up a fight, but the Warriors had a bit more firepower with Klay Thompson, and they'd be coming out on top. And at this point, KD has had enough of Houston. In 2021, KD will force his way to the Nets with Harden and Kyrie, but this stretch would follow the same path as we know in reality, and they would fall in the playoffs to the Bucks. And now this is where the Harden career path meets shenanigans, as KD would team up with Embiid after forcing his way to the Sixers by demanding a trade at the deadline. Without a doubt, Joel would be the absolute best teammate Durant has had so far by a long shot, and as a result, Kevin was having an incredible season. They were considered by many as possibly the best duo ever formed in the NBA, but the only downside was how late into the season Durant joined the team, which would have an effect on their chemistry, but the sheer impact of these two stars was enough to still excel headed into the playoffs. They held the first seed, and they were playing the 10th seed of Bulls, who had won out the play-in tournament. The Bulls were a complete mess on the court, and it was more of a playground for Durant and Embiid than anything else. In this series, Durant practically turned back the clock with some exceptional play, and this was the perfect way to start off the playoffs with a seemingly easy first round in preparation for round 2, which is a hurdle Embiid has never overcome. And that hurdle was looking familiar, because it'd be the Heat who defeated the Sixers in real life this year. But with Philly having Durant instead of Harden, this would be going very differently. Embiid was playing how he normally does in round 2, and if it was just his play, they undoubtedly would lose. So thankfully, with Durant leading the charge of scoring, Miami didn't even stand a chance, and it would end up being almost as easy as the series versus the Bulls. And moving into the conference finals, it's barely even worth talking about, as somehow the Hawks had made it here and would be totally embarrassed by the tandem of Durant and Embiid. And now in the finals, KD has matchup number 3 versus LeBron James. Durant is currently 0-2 against LeBron in the finals in this reality, so he has a lot to prove here. Embiid and Davis would have their hands full with each other, and their production was nearly evenly matched, which would leave this series up to the matter of LeBron and Durant. I'm not sure if it was LeBron aging, Durant being at his peak, or the utter determination to prove that he was the better player, but regardless of what it was, Durant was completely eclipsing LeBron in this finals. Durant was scoring off isolations on LeBron over and over again, and this series wasn't even competitive, as it seemed KD and Embiid pairing may be more lethal than even the likes of Kobe and Shaq, which was poetic, because after 5 games they would be defeating Kobe and Shaq's old team, as KD was being crowned the champion, and he finally defeated LeBron James to get his revenge. And that next season, they were right back in the playoffs and running straight through their opponents again to make it back into the NBA Finals versus Curry and the Warriors, who lacked a center that was capable of slowing down Embiid, as he'd be earning the Finals MVP this time, but Durant was officially completing the repeats. But my big concern was if he could three-peat, which would be determined on a new team. He was being reunited with Westbrook again, but was also joining other great players like Paul George, who was still in his prime, and Kawhi Leonard, who for once was surprisingly healthy and actually playing. This would be Durant's last year in the simulation, so it was now or never for KD to get a three-peat and stamped into NBA history. Durant's scoring would be at a low point with so many players to share the ball with, but that's expected, right? So much talent, you have to share the ball. What could possibly go wrong? Are the Clippers serious right now? How do you have that bad a record with all of these pieces? The Clippers apparently had too many hands in the kitchen and would find themselves locked into the play-in tournament. Luckily, they only had to win one play-in game, and it was versus the Wolves. While the regular season was bumpy, the play-in wouldn't be, as the Clippers would advance to round 1 for a battle for Los Angeles. The Clippers easily had the better team on paper, but I don't know what else to say other than the team just wasn't working out, as the Lakers were in complete control of the series and its results. Durant was able to steal one game, but ultimately was falling to LeBron in round 1 after 5 games, and KD's story was coming to an end after a lot of success with Harden's trajectory. But what about another one of Durant's teammates like Booker taking over Kobe's career? Find out how that would go by clicking on this video.